On a quiet stretch of Willow Street, where maple leaves curled like tiny boats and the evening smelled faintly of pine, there used to be a row of glowing porch lights. It was a beautiful sight. Each home kept one burning every single night without fail. This wasn't just about lighting up the dark. It was a tradition, a gentle, unspoken promise that reminded neighbors they were never truly alone. It was a symbol of community, a silent hello from one house to the next. But times change, don't they? The world moves on, and sometimes the best parts of the past get left behind. Families who had been there for generations moved away, and new ones came and went, often too busy to notice the old ways. Slowly, like stars winking out one by one, the warm line of lights along Willow Street began to disappear. The street grew darker, quieter. Soon, there was only one left. It belonged to Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, a silver-haired woman with soft, kind eyes and a rocking chair that creaked like a familiar lullaby. She had lived on Willow Street for over 50 years. She'd raised her children there, waved at countless neighbors from her front porch, and sat outside every evening, letting the soft glow of her light spill onto the steps and into the street. Her home was a constant, a landmark of warmth. People wondered why she still bothered. Some of the newer neighbors would whisper about it. Electricity costs money, after all. And the street was perfectly safe now. There was no real need for it. The old tradition, the one that had once bound them all together, was forgotten by almost everyone. It seemed like a relic from a time long gone. But Mrs. Hayes knew something that everyone else had forgotten. She knew that a porch light is so much more than just a light. It's a welcome. It's a beacon of hope on a dark night. It's a silent promise that says, you are seen, you are safe. There is a place for you here. For her, that little bulb held the spirit of the entire neighborhood. One chilly November night, a powerful storm rolled across Willow Street. The wind howled like a mournful animal, and the rain lashed against the windows with a furious rhythm. The power flickered and died in every house, up and down the street, plunging the neighborhood into an inky, unsettling blackness. But not Mrs. Hayes. Her porch light stayed steady, glowing softly through the storm like a faithful, unyielding lantern. That very same night, a young boy named Caleb, who was new to the neighborhood, found himself lost in the disorienting dark. He had run out in a panic to look for his runaway dog, Milo. The thunder had frightened the little dog, and Caleb, forgetting a coat or a flashlight, had just followed the sound of his barks into the night. Now he was soaked to the bone and shivering, standing in the middle of the street, completely turned around. The storm had transformed his new world into a confusing maze. Every house looked the same, a dark, silent silhouette against the even darker sky. Fear began to creep into his heart. He felt utterly alone, except for one thing. One single point of light, the porch light. It was warm, bright, calm. It cut through the chaos of the storm like a lighthouse beam. Caleb's frantic heart began to steady. He took a deep breath and started walking towards it, his eyes fixed on the comforting glow. He followed it all the way until he reached Mrs. Hayes' steps. And there, curled up and trembling under the railing, was Milo, safe. Before Caleb could even raise his hand to knock, the front door swung open. There stood Mrs. Hayes, her face framed by the warm light from inside. "Come in, sweetheart," she said, her voice as gentle as her smile. No one should be out alone in a storm. Inside, her home smelled like cinnamon and old, well-loved stories. She wrapped both Caleb and Milo in warm, fluffy blankets and sat them by the fire. As the storm outside began to fade, its fury spent, Caleb looked up at her and asked quietly, "Why do you keep the porch light on?" Mrs. Hayes smiled, and her eyes twinkled as if they held 100 wonderful memories. "Because someone might need it," she said simply. "No matter how dark the world feels or how lost you think you are, one light can be enough to guide someone home." The story of that night spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. People talked about how Caleb and Milo were saved from the storm by the last porch light on Willow Street. It was a simple story, but it touched something deep within everyone who heard it. And then something wonderful began to happen. Slowly, one by one, the houses on Willow Street started turning their porch lights back on again. First, it was Caleb's family, their light a grateful thank you. Then their next-door neighbor and the family across the street. Soon, the entire street glowed just like it had all those years ago, a chain of warm, safe, welcoming lights. The tradition was reborn, but everyone knew where it began. It began with one woman, one porch, and one small light that refused to go out, that held on to hope when everyone else had let go. And so that single porch light became a beautiful reminder for the whole neighborhood. Hope doesn't need a crowd. It doesn't need everyone to believe. It just needs one person willing to keep the light on. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more heartwarming content. Remember, a little bit of light can make all the difference.